Why don't homeless people just go stay with their families? 1. I allowed my brother to stay with me after my parents just couldn't tolerate him any longer. He was in his late 40s. He couldn't keep a job, a drug user, and a chain smoker. I had rules and we went over them. The first week was fine. He would work in the yard and clean the house. He even had dinner ready when I came home from work. But one day, I went in his room to get something out of the closet and what a pigsty. He had burned holes in the carpet, dresser, and bed covers. It was clear to me that my life was in danger. He would fall asleep with cigarettes burning. He left that day because I blew a gasket. I tried to help him. So many people have tried. It was just futile in our efforts. Addicts are not clear-thinking individuals. They don't really care about anything but getting high. 2. I'll give you the example of my neighbor's brother. They're both in their 50s. My neighbor is a hard-working registered nurse, married with 2 grown children, one of whom is my son-in-law. She's also fighting cancer. His brother is an irresponsible meth addict. He's never held a full-time job, but would often prostitute to make drug money. Last year, he entered treatment. When he was released, my neighbor took him in with the clear rules that he stay sober, get a job, and help out around the house. The first 2 weeks were great and he was compliant. He got a job with a landscaping company and was helping around the house. Week 3, my neighbor came home from work early, pulled into her garage and caught her brother and another very scummy-looking man smoking meth. She threw him out then and there. Having her brother there had several very negative implications. 1. She has 4 grandchildren who were no longer allowed by their parents to come to her house because they didn't want their children to be around an addict. 2. Her brother posed a potential health hazard to her. Due to her cancer therapy, she is immunocompromised. Her brother was found to be positive for hepatitis. While this might not pose a problem to most who live with someone who has these viruses, it can pose a problem if you are immunocompromised and sharing a bathroom. Not to mention he was also shooting drugs and a stash of used needles was found in his room after he left. Additionally, the stress of having him there wasn't good for her. After he left it was discovered that he'd stolen several items from the house. Sometimes you have to let people go for your own health. It has nothing to do with not caring. 3. One day, my mother kicked me out of home. Just like that. I had no clothes except what was on my back. All of my identification was in her house which she refused to give me and so I went to my boyfriend's house. At the time, it was okay there, for a couple of days at least. And then his abuse intensified and he would kick out of his home in the middle of the night because he seemed to enjoy seeing me cry. I called Mom once. Mom, please can I come home for the night? I will sleep in the backyard. She said no and so I slept in a bush behind a cafe that night. That was my saddest night on the streets. My heart hurt all night. And so the cycle continued. My boyfriend would call me to come back and then a few days later I would be in the bushes somewhere. One day I turned my back on everyone and everything. I realized I was alone if I had to sleep in a bush. At least nobody would wake me up in the middle of the night and kick me out of it. Some of us don't have family to rely on. Some of us don't even have friends. Some of us eventually realize that homelessness is the only way to escape the abuse.